Wisconsin Eye's 2014 election coverage is brought to you by the Wisconsin Hospital Association. For over 90 years, a valued voice for Wisconsin hospitals, supporting high-quality, high-value care in communities like yours.
Wisconsin Eye is at the Brown County Library interviewing candidates in the 2014 elections. We're interviewing Mr. Scott Heinig of Elkhart Lake. He's a Democrat running in Assembly District 27. Mr. Heinig, welcome to Wisconsin Eye.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me.
And a programming note, Wisconsin Eye appreciates the support of the Wisconsin Hospital Association, which represents more than 139 hospitals and health systems, for making these candidate interviews possible. First-time candidate, Scott?
Yes, I am.
Give us the short version of your bio then.
Okay. Well, I'm living in Elkhart Lake, Glen Beulah area, and I've been on the school board now for the past 4 years, after having lived in the community for approximately 18 years. I'm married, have a daughter, 2 stepchildren, and currently we're on our second foreign exchange student. Delightful experiences with everything. I've got 19 years in education as a background. I've been in industry for 9 years, hospitality for 2 years, and retail for 6.
Wow, it's quite a background.
Yes.
Is there any one issue that brought you into the race, Scott?
No one issue. I'm just looking to give back to the community and Wisconsin, kind of pay back for what they've provided the opportunities for me to enjoy. Looking at just trying to improve things for everybody overall and make some sense out of the bickering and battling that's been going on for the last several years.
Well, as a school board member, talk to me about the impact, if any, on Act 10 on the school district on that you serve.
Okay, well, Act 10 has had a significant impact as far as both the psychological impact of the bill and of the way it was passed through, as well as the financial impact. Now, you can argue either side of the argument on whether or not some of the phases of Act 10 or some of the parts of Act 10 were necessary to be implemented as a way of gaining control of the finances of the school districts and those kind of things. And that would be a much longer discussion than I think we have time for.
But overall, has it been bad or good for the school district?
Overall, we weathered the storm.
Okay.
And I think it was because of the administration and the teachers' willingness to work together to get through it. Again, the way it was approached with the psychological battering that education took was an unnecessary byproduct of the whole battle of education in Wisconsin.
Okay, if you're in the assembly, you will vote on the next state budget. What are your priorities then for that part of the budget that pays for K-12 public schools?
Well, right now I think we just have to try to come up with some kind of balance. K-12 education is vital to the growth of our community, as all of Wisconsin. But we do need to change and continue to improve it. The Common Core standards have come about through a broad consensus of educators, politicians, and those kind of things. And for some reason, it's being brought up in a bad light over the last 2 years.
So you support Common Core, sir?
I do support Common Core. Having been a teacher, having used different curriculums, understanding the problems we have when students go from one school system to another, from one part of the country to another, and trying to figure out where we replace them when they come into the school, I think needs to be addressed, and that's part of what Common Core is. Also, to give all Americans a base understanding of their history, the history of the world, of mathematics, of science, and those things is critical if we want to continue to move forward and be competitive throughout the world.
Part of the education debate next year will be the decisions over school choice and vouchers. Now, as you know, in the current budget, we have 1,000 slots outstate for school choice and vouchers. What do you think should be the future of the voucher program, sir?
Well, choice. Parents and students should be able to kind of move to where they feel they're going to have the best opportunity to get the best education. Vouchers, I'm still playing with in my mind, as I don't quite understand the rationale or the basis for the voucher where you're giving money to a family to choose where their student is going to go. I don't know how all of a sudden we've determined that they're entitled to public money to choose to send their child somewhere. The taxes collected, whether they be state taxes or local property taxes, are a community fund. And the community, as I see it, should be deciding how those are spent. Do we need to make better decisions? Absolutely. Do we need to strengthen education? Absolutely. Do I want to limit free choice of parents to send their child where they feel they're going to get the best education? Absolutely not. It comes down to the funding mechanism for it and how we decide what money follows what entity in any of the areas that we cover in the assembly.
Okay. New issue, transportation funding. The Wisconsin Taxpayers Alliance has said if we fund transportation at 2013 levels for 10 years, we're going to be $2 billion short, a deficit of $2 billion. How do you, your thoughts on how that could be made up, sir?
Well, there's a variety of ways it can be made up. What we have to figure out is what's going to have the most or the fairest impact on everybody that's using the roads. I don't think any one group should have to fund the entire highway mechanism for other groups. So somehow we have to come to some kind of agreement on who's using it, how much damage they're doing to it, and how do we fairly share the repairs and the new construction of the roads in Wisconsin.
Would you consider raising the gas tax, which hasn't been raised since 2006, or the $75 fee that you and I pay to register our vehicles?
Those should all be on the board, yes, or on the table, so to speak. Along with, as again, we know that mileage has gone up with cars and that type of thing. There are cars that aren't paying energy taxes or gas taxes or that type of thing.
Electric vehicles.
So somehow we have to get that fairness restored in the people using it. The trucks are getting heavier, farm equipment is getting heavier, and it all comes down to what is the ramifications or the repercussions on the roads and how do we deal with that.
Well, healthcare funding. 1 in 5 Wisconsin residents get their healthcare through our Medicaid program. The American Hospital Association says our Medicaid reimbursement rates are second lowest in the nation. If you've studied the issue, do you think those rates should be raised?
Well, I've been looking into the issue in a variety of different ways, including the insurance mechanisms. And again, that was part of Act 10. The number of public employees with insurance benefits, the number of the elderly that are privy to Medicaid, Medicare, and those kind of things, and again, trying to devise the fairest way of doing it. Mm-hmm. As far as increasing the amount of reimbursements and those types of things, it has to be studied. It has to be seen how it's impacting the medical community within the state and what's the fairest way. I've also been doing a little bit of looking at Minnesota, which seems to be holding their costs better than we are in Wisconsin. I don't know why. I haven't gotten to research it to the depth that I would need to really understand it.
Tax collections fell $281 million short in the last fiscal year. If that translated into a deficit going into the next spending cycle, your thoughts on how that deficit might be made up, sir?
Again, this is one where have a little bit of knowledge, okay, just enough to be dangerous.
I understand.
And it's one of those where we've made some major changes in the way we're taxing certain entities.
Yes.
And that, from my understanding, is one of the reasons why we're that $200 million short. So if the ramifications of those tax changes cause that, one of the things we would have to look at is the ramifications of returning some of that back to the tax base.
Okay. There was a bill introduced to legalize medical marijuana. It will be reintroduced. Now we have Colorado and the state of Washington legalize recreational marijuana. Your position on those issues, sir?
Both of those are experiments in the making. So it's been interesting to follow a little bit more on the Colorado impact than on Washington. I'm kind of neutral on it. As far as the punishments that we're administering for the use and those kind of things, I think are a little bit out of line with the problems or potential problems that any drug use causes. And we should be looking at ways of resolving the problems, being more honest from the very beginning on the impacts they have on life and individual personalities and those types of things, the social as well as the medical impacts of using any drug in any form, whether it's legal or illegal. And I think that's where we have to start on so many things, is a much better form of education, both to the general public and the youth of Wisconsin.
The bill passed early last session that changed mining rules to let Gogebic Taconite potentially apply for a permit to open an open pit iron mine in Ashland and Iron counties. Have you studied the issue? Would you have voted for that bill, Scott?
In its current form, I would not have.
Why?
Just in my understanding of the way the bill was written, who wrote the bill, the input on the other potential impacts that the mining may cause up there. I think it went through pretty fast, and I know it's been proposed repeatedly over time, so it isn't, that it was proposed 2 years ago and then it was passed. It has been studied. I'm not sure if all the groups had a fair opportunity to place input into it. I'm not sure the ramifications of that pristine area being used as the size and the potential implications that could result from it. So right now, I would have voted no at that time because I would need to know more.
It may not be an issue in Assembly District 27, but this debate over frac sand mining in Wisconsin seems to be between those who believe that the state should set minimal standards that local governments couldn't go beyond, but the other side is local government should have the ultimate authority. Your position?
My position is another one where I would need to do more research.
Okay.
But there's many things that the state and local communities have to work together because it does impact both. Okay. Because anytime a local community makes a decision that could have an impact on state funding, state mechanisms of mitigation or those kind of things, it has to be studied in depth and the communities have to come together to make sure that somehow we have a plan for the future of whatever we're doing, whether it's frac sands and or whether it's PCPs and rivers and those kind of things which have all impacted us over the last 100 years.
It was an issue in the primary for Attorney General. Should first offense drunken driving be a crime, sir? That's
one of those issues where I think a lot of the feelings come in on how you've experienced drinking and in the social and or family ramifications that it could have had to an individual. First time, I would say no. It would be more of a, not so much a felony or that type of thing, but more focus placed on some kind of remediation or education that the person would have to go through. So I would look at something where a person would have to attend a much more intensive, for lack of a better word, an impact class to demonstrate the actual impact drunk driving has on the community, on the families, on the individuals.
Okay. Then finally, do you want to highlight any differences between you and your opponent in the November 4 election?
I think the biggest difference would be the amount of experience we've had in the variety of different areas that we've been involved with. I believe my 19 years in education, both at the K-12 level, the technical college level, job training and those things kind of sets me apart as far as as far as being able to impact those areas immediately. Also being on 2 school boards and also being a chief negotiator for a teachers union, the LEA, I think gives me a certain ability to see things from both sides as well. in the influence of decisions made throughout or from either side of that issue. Also, I've worked in industry with some of the largest manufacturers in the Sheboygan County area. Always had a good experience, and from my experiences, I see family businesses, which can be large or small, as having a major impact and importance in our state, and would hold their influence and their assistance in community life and that stuff as vital to a strong Wisconsin.
Thank you. Scott Heinig of Elkhart Lake, is a Democratic candidate in Assembly District 27. Scott, thanks for talking to Wisconsin Eye.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you,
and
sir.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.